G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast, episode 3 of our best 17s for season 2025. This isn't the likely best 17s, this is my best 17 that I would pick. I will sprinkle in there what I think the coaches will pick and what all the media and all the rumours and everything sound like it's going to be, but these are picking my best 17 and why I would pick that best 17. So I've got the Sydney Roosters today. If you're watching this on YouTube, you could have been watching this a week ago in the Roo Crew. All the best 17s have been in there for about a week or so. You can join the Roo Crew for season 2025. You can pay $8 a month, $2 a week, or you can get 10% on if you pay your annual fee. So come join the Roo Crew. Fantastic community in there with honestly too much content than you'll know what to do with. We're having daily updates from senior players in the NRL, letting me know who they think the players that are in their squad that have impressed in the preseason so far. You're getting all that early mail, all the super coach stuff, all the rumours, everything in the Roo Crew. Cheap as chips, plenty of value in there. Come and jump in. Let's get started with the Sydney Roosters, though. Their best 17, according to me. We'll start at fullback. The skipper, James Tedesco, he picks himself, was criticised heavily at the end of 2023, came back in 2024 and, arguably one of the better seasons he has had. He was incredible in season 2024, James Tedesco. A year older, a bit more pressure on his shoulders this year, I think, with a couple of key injuries and key players missing. But James Tedesco, he's in for another big season. For me, the two wingers, they pick themselves. Dom Young, one of the best wingers I have ever seen. One of the most consistent wingers I have ever seen. Had some, mistakes and errors in his game in the early parts of his career, and I think some fans have always held on to that. I think for the last decade, he has been incredible in the NRL, and there's a reason why the Roosters have held on to him this entire time. They don't keep many guys for 10 years plus. Daniel Tupou's one of them. He locks himself in, one of the best wingers I've ever seen. And Dom Young came down from the Newcastle Knights, had an incredible few years, had a couple of brain explosions occasionally, whatnot last year, but a tremendous talent who I think is only going to get better and better over time. So I think the back three, they pick themselves. I'd be pretty shocked if anyone had it any differently. Teddy, Tupous and Dom Young for the Roosters, the back three there, and one of the best back threes you'll find in the league. Centers. Oh boy, it's getting interesting. Now, obviously Joey Manu, he has made way. He's headed over to Japanese rugby. Keen to see how Manu goes over there. So Ali's obviously made his way to the Wallabies. So there are two centre jerseys up for grabs. For me personally, I think Billy Smith will take one of those jerseys. I think he will be there if he is fit, which I'm hearing at the moment. He is. He's ready to go. He's been a favourite of the Roosters for quite some time. I think he takes that jersey. The other centre spot, super interesting. You've obviously got a guy that I've been talking about for a few years, Rob Toyer, who's come through the system at the Roosters. He's had a few ACLs over the last few years, but he's ready to go now. I read through on Bloke in a Bar the other day some stats from his New South Wales Cup games when he returned, and they really are incredible. I'll try and find them for you now quickly. But he has hit the ground running when returning to New South Wales Cup last year. Remember, guys, once again, this is coming off an ACL injury where he didn't have a preseason. He played 6 games. He averaged 151 run meters across those 6 games. It's worth noting, in the first game, he only ran for 80, so the other games were big. 203, 178, 125, 147, 173. He had 4 tackle breaks in the first game. After that, he went 8, 3, 8, 7, and 12. So he averaged 150 run meters per game at centre and 7 tackle breaks per game in New South Wales Cup in his first games back from injury. Robert Toyer is the real deal. Will he be there round 1? I'm not too sure. The other option, and I hear he's doing very well, Marky Mark, that's come over from the Wallabies. I've been trying to practice his last name. Honestly, I am really struggling with it, so I'm going to keep practicing and not butcher it for you guys. But I'm hearing that he has every chance to start in the centres, and honestly, I'm probably leaning towards him for round 1. I just think a little bit more experience and whatnot. And I just think I think they'll take their time with Toyer. I don't think there's any need to rush him into this side immediately. I think Mark's going to be an important part of this system over the next few years. I'd imagine he's spent the entire offseason playing at centre. And I think they'll just want to get him some games there and just start to get him used to it. So I tend to think they will go with Mark. But I do think Toyer is a very, very good shot. I think it's a 50-50 shot for Team List Tuesday. We will see what happens. I'll talk about where you could fit Toyer in a little bit later. So that is the back 5 for the Sydney Roosters. The back 3 pick themselves. Centres, I think Billy Smith picks himself. The other 2 will have to make a decision there. The halves. Now, Sandon Smith, he would be my 5'8" for the season. I'm happy to have Sandon Smith at 6. I think he's a talented guy with a future in our game. 7, obviously Sam Walker's out for the first half of the season. So this is a best 17. You guys know I would put Sam Walker in there. But with him unavailable, Chad Townsend will obviously start there for the first month. So I think they will start, for the first half of the season. I think they'll start the season with Chad Townsend and Sandon Smith. I think that makes the most sense realistically. And if one of them gets injured, I don't know what the Roosters are going to do then. It'll be very interesting. They've obviously got guys like Rodwell in the system and whatnot, but no one else that has played first grade, and guys that realistically have pretty limited experience just when it comes to first grade. Reece Foley's a young guy. I watched him play a lot of Jersey Flag and Cup last year. He's a talented player, as is Toby Rodwell. Both are very young, both inexperienced. I'm very keen to see how that all plays out. I do wonder if there's a world where maybe they move like Teddy to 6 and play someone else at fullback because, there's going to be a lot of inexperience there, especially when you can't chuck Connor Watson there because Brandon Smith's out, unless they want to unearth one of these young hookers to play there, a Moriarty or someone like that. I hope there's no injuries to the Roosters because I think this could get ugly quickly because I think their depth is really going to be tested this year. I think it's a bit of I don't know if you call it a rebuild or reload season. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. The Roosters just feel a step off to me this year. So they'd be my halves. And I think they can win games, but I'm not with a new centre pairing, with new halves. Your first choice hooker missing, you're losing Watson in the 13 jersey. I don't know. I have my concerns about the Roosters and this halves pairing. But Chad Townsend, he's an experienced guy. He can direct traffic. If he can just create opportunities for Teddy and the guys in the back 5 there, they can win football games. Let's move into the forward pack. For me, Lindsay Collins is an automatic. He starts there. He's an origin prop, an international prop. He's a gun. He starts there. My other front rower, I think I'm going to go with White. And I know a lot of people are going Spencer Leniu. I don't know. Penrith, they won X amount of comps to Spencer Leniu coming off the bench. Last year when he was coming off the bench, I thought he was better for New South Wales coming off the bench. I think he's just a better impact guy. And I think Nat White, if he can pair things up with Collins there, I think they can make it work. I think a lot of people, especially in the Supercoach world, are expecting White to explode and play 50, 60 minutes. I'm not convinced he's that guy just yet. I think he's got the ability to become that guy, but consistently week to week, I'm not sure if he is that guy. And I'm not entirely sure if Robinson trusts him to be that guy just yet. But I think he will start in the front row. That's how I do it. I'd pair him up with Collins. At 9, Connor Watson has to play there. Brandon Smith is out for the first half of the season. Cheese would be my starting 9, but I think you have to play Connor Watson there. They have got other guys in the squad like Moriarty, who I've seen play junior grades and I like them, but I just don't think they're going to go down that avenue. I think Connor Watson will be the 9, and that is the option I would take as well. On the edges, Angus Crichton, the best second rower in rugby league last year, not named. Eli Katoa might have been the best second rower in rugby league, full stop. He's on the left edge, locks himself in. He'll be important defensively for those halves as well. Right edge, I think you go with Nat Butcher. Now, last year, Victor Radley played a lot on that right edge. You had Nat Butcher jumping into the 13, Terrell May occasionally. For me, I think Nat Butcher is the best guy to have there. Once again, you're going to have a half there that defensively is going to need a little bit of help. I think Nat Butcher is the best spot to have there, mainly because I think they're going to need Radley through the spine. I think they obviously won 2 comps with Radley in jersey 13, then injuries, suspension, brain explosions. Honestly, everything that could go wrong for Radley from the 2019 grand final onwards just about did go wrong for him. He started to find his feet again last year playing on that edge. I think he has to be in the 13. With Sam Walker out, Luke Keary gone, and also Connor Watson forced to play 9, I think you have to play Rads at 13. It's what I would definitely be doing. I think he can really help Townsend and Smith out. When Sam Walker returns, maybe you can shift him back out to the edge or whatever it might be. But I personally think Victor Radley has to make a move back to jersey 13. And I think outside of the premiership years, I reckon this is the most important year of Victor Radley's career over the last 5 or 6 because there's going to be a lot more pressure on him. There's going to be a lot more expectation on him. He's been the young guy in this squad over the last few years who can make mistakes and you forgive him and all that sort of stuff. But Now he has to be, a key ball player in this team, and he has to be a leader in this side. I personally think Rads is ready for that. Had a child not long ago. I think he has grown up quite a bit over the last few years, Bradley. I think he's ready to return to the 13 jersey, and I personally think he can return to being one of the elite 13s in our game very, very quickly. I think it's forgotten how influential he was in that 18 and 19 back-to-back premiership victories. He was crucial. So Rads, he returns to jersey 13 for me, and I'm confident he can do a job there. Let's move to the bench, and this is where it gets interesting. I think Spencer Leniu, he's an absolute lock to be on the bench. He will be there without a doubt. A lot of people would start him. I'd have him coming off the bench. I don't want there to be a huge drop-off at the 25-minute mark. I want to bring Leniu on, and I want to, tell him that middle 40 minutes, that's your side. You need to lead from the front. You need to take him into battle, and I think he will do that. I'm excited to see Spencer Leniu. He was good last year. Obviously had the drama in Las Vegas. He returned, played Origin. Honestly, he was probably our best forward not named Angus Crichton. I thought he was incredible in Origin, and Robbo really needs him to step up. Terrell May gone, Ria Hargraves gone. He needs to have an enormous season, Spencer Leniu. And once again, I think a lot of people still think your best players have to start. I think his best spot and where he can do the most damage for the Roosters and be the most effective for the Roosters is coming off the bench. So I'm keen to see how Leniu goes. For me, I would go with Va'a. He's a young front rower who obviously debuted last year, absolutely big as a fucking house. I watched him play Jersey Flegg last year, and I just thought, this is not fair. He's like one of those guys on a PlayStation game. You put the size up 1,000. He is ready for first grade. I don't think he's going to be a guy that plays 50 minutes. I reckon he'll be like a 20-minute guy for the vast majority of the season, but I think this will be really good for his development. During Origin, Lindsay Collins will go away. Spencer will probably go away, and I think he'll have to step up and play bigger minutes there, and I'm keen to see how he goes. He would be in my round one side. He would be on my bench as one of my middle forwards. I think he's going to do well. Maybe a little bit of a bias pick here, but I would still be picking Siwa Wong in the side. He can obviously play on the edge. He can play 13. He was playing prop in New South Wales Cup last year. I just think he's too talented to not be picking in this team. Maybe, I don't know if Robbo's able to get the very best out of him. I'm a little bit surprised how slow the development has been with Wong, but I still think he's an elite player. I still think he's going to be an elite forward in our game. I would be sticking with him on the bench. I also think he gives you a little bit of versatility. If you're really desperate, you can chuck him out in the centres. He can jump into that lock role. I even think at a stretch he could play 5'8" if you were really desperate and you had injuries. So I think Wong, he's valuable to have in this side coming off the bench. He can play as a middle, edge, lock, whatever it might be. I think he's worth having. And as I said, he can cover the centres if you have an injury, which can be important. For me, the last jersey is interesting. I originally wrote down Blake Steep. I've said to you guys on a number of occasions, I think Steep's going to be a captain of this club one day. Just the small sample sizes I have seen of him in first grade have impressed me. What I've seen from him, though, in the junior grades and whatnot, and just how he is and how he carries himself. I remember when I was 18 and you were watching Boyd Cordner come through the grades and everything. He reminds me a lot of Boyd. Met him a couple of times. I spoke to him in New Zealand when I was over there watching Jersey Flegg, watching my brother play. I think he just ticks a lot of boxes for me, Blake Steep. I've heard that he's absolutely flying this preseason, which doesn't shock me at all. I think he should be part of this bench. The thing with me, though, is that if I've got Mark in the centres, I do wonder if you start to blood Toya coming off the bench, and you probably don't, but I think there's a world where you could get away with it. I think he is big enough and strong enough that if you put him on for impact, if everything went right and you didn't have any injuries to the wingers, centres, anything, I think you could maybe carry him on the bench as just an extra guy to cover spots. Whether they do that or not, I don't know. I know that Robbo has done it in the past occasionally, but he doesn't do it all that often. I think he will probably go with Blake Steep. I think that's probably the option he will take, but I can see a world where they go with Toya. Once again, Blake Steep, he's probably the guy I would go with, and he is the guy that they will go with. But I think Toya could handle himself sort of coming off the bench there. So that's sort of my 17 for the Roosters. Guys that have missed out here, obviously in the outside backs, you've got Palga who's missed out, who, I don't know, maybe I'm sleeping on him. I think they see him as more of a winger, and I think as soon as they have an injury, he is the next man up, and I'm very confident he'll do a job. I would argue he's close to the best outside back in the NRL who's not in a team regularly. I really like him. I think he's got plenty more to offer. So he'll be first reserve reserve to come in whenever there's an injury to those outside backs, pending what happens with Toya and Mark. But I like having him in the system. I think it's a really, really good signing by the Roosters and really good club management to keep him in the system. You've obviously got Toya. We've spoken about him, whether he's on the bench, in the centres, whatever. If he misses out, he'll be there. Egan Butcher's another one that I can't get into my side. I really like Egan. He probably hasn't developed as fast as what I thought he would, which is sort of becoming a bit of a trend with these Roosters forwards, that Robbo, I don't know, he's just not able to get the best out of them immediately. It does take time. Even a guy like Radley has sort of gone backwards a little bit. So it is something that I am really interested in and keen to watch. Guys in the halves, I mentioned before, Reece Foley. I've watched a lot of him coming through the grade. Seems to be a really good kid. He's a genuine halfback. I don't think you could play him at 6. If Chad Townsend went down, Foley would probably be my next guy at 7. And then I'd be happy to leave Sandon Smith at 6. Toby Rodwell, he obviously did well in SG Ball last year. Looks like a talented kid. I probably prefer Reece Foley slightly, but it's pretty neck and neck. I think trials will decide who's in front there. Obviously, Brandon Smith and Sam Walker, they're not in the side at the moment. They are injured. They'll come in when their time is right. Outside of that, that's just about everyone in their squad. Tyler Moriarty as well, who's a young hooker that I like, but I think I'd rather play Connor Watson there. For me, the big talking point here is moving Victor Radley into jersey 13. I think it has to be done. I think with their key guys that are out and that have left and or retired, I think you need to give Radley more responsibility and put him back in the middle and put more of this team on his back, especially in attack. I think he's going to be crucial. The halves pick themselves as it stands right now. The centers will be a very, very interesting conversation, and the makeup of that Roosters bench will be interesting. This is my side as it stands right now. It is going to be a very interesting watch during the trials which of these 3 centers grabs these spots with 2 hands. I'm very, very keen to see how it all plays out, but this is my Roosters team as it stands right now.